Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Awakening Potential Show. It's your gateway to the extraordinary. I'm your host, Karen Rudolph, and I'm here to support you in stepping into your sassy confidence, your classy wisdom, and your badassy brilliance. Because awakening your potential isn't just a moment, it's a movement. Here we dive into powerful stories, soul-stirring tools, and game-changing strategies that spark transformation in your life, in your work, and in your world all around you. So grab a notebook, open your heart, and let's light your inner spark. And today I'm really excited to introduce someone who's truly embodies the journey. Our guest, Tony Doty, I'm sorry. Having a moment. Tony Doty is the DreamMaker, who is a connector, speaker, and executive producer who has supported and mentored over 10,000 people in the last 2 decades, from Olympic gold medalists and pro athletes and top corporate executives to royals, world leaders to your next door neighbor as well. So get ready for a transformational journey that will leave you inspired, uplifted, and ready to take bold action in your own life. A warm welcome to the show, Tony. Tony.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm happy you got my name right. That was good. That was good. Yeah. And the funny thing is, on the Zoom, I'm actually seeing my wife's name, Christina, right here. Do you see that? That's so funny. I don't know if you picked that
Oh,
up or no.
yes, I just saw that. Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
that's so funny. It's okay. We love you. We love you, Christina. She's always here. She's my anchor. Yeah, I mean, she truly, truly is. I'm the air and she's the grounding. So between both of us, it's a yin and yang.
I love that. I love that. And she's going to be with us later on the show on next week. We're going to be
Yeah.
hosting her as well because you're both two extraordinary people
Oh,
who have
thank you.
certainly touched my life in many ways and the
Mm,
lives of many people that we've both come into contact with. So
yeah.
I'm really excited about it. But before we start and delve into the present moment, I always like to go back. Like, what
Mm.
inspired you? What did you play with as a child? And does it have any connection to what you're doing today?
Thank you. I mean, totally. I believe everybody that does everything is connected to someone as a child. And there's these different, of course, modalities in energy medicine where people can twist and tweak and, well, not twist, but tweak things and remove things and reframe things and so forth, right? But at the end of the day, it's like, from newborn to 7, you're in data. So you're just that sponge and beautiful imagination picking things up. It's why, like, a little child will have a giant stick, and in child's mind, it's like a horse or a unicorn or a pony, right? And
Right.
during that creative state. And it's the same exact thing when we go to bed, we're in theta the hour before. And when we wake up, the hour after in theta. And when you're in a deep meditation, you're also in theta as well. And this is the ability to really create. And so, yeah, would you like me to share a little bit of my origin story, if you will?
Yeah, please, if you would,
Yeah.
I'd love to. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So I don't always share this, but I will. I love you, feel very comfortable with you. And no doubt people that follow you are going to, probably, I'm sure, have the same mindset. I was born actually Anthony DeGraff, right? And so my mother, who I love very, very much, my mother and my two other power women in my life, which was my grandma and my great grandma, I called her Nanny, we're Italian. And they helped raise me up until about 6 years old. And then my stepdad came into my life and I had that male figure, right? So I was around all these powerful women, which is why I think I really love women. I see where they come from. I think they're so powerful and amazing and strong. Why, Harrison Klein, Marbette Dunn, and I have some women empowerment, companies and so forth together and brands. And it's one of those things that I feel like they really helped me with the nurturing standpoint, like that loving nurture, which carried over to today. And then my stepdad, like I said, married my mom, and then my first sister was born. I'm the oldest of 7. First was born when I was 8. I was literally an only child till I was 8 years old. 6 other siblings. I'm the oldest of 7, right?
Wow.
So it's interesting when she, right? And when she was born, I learned really how to love something even more than you, how to really care for something that is smaller than you, right? Lita, my sister Lita, taught me that, right? And I became the big brother, and it was this amazing experience. I remember I went through like a little course that they had at that time, and I got a certification to be a big brother in a little pin. It was cute. This is like 1989, and she taught me really how to love and look at for something smaller than me, right? And so principle wise, I carry that into everything that I do, literally to this day. It's like I always try to look out for everybody. I try to look out for the little person, but really anyone, and for that matter. So, kind of jumping ahead, I met my biological father, Jim Doty, when I was 10. Got a phone call, and gentleman asked to speak to my mom. And I said, okay, here. And I handed the phone. I was 10 years old. Lita was 2. I'm watching her in the pool outside Jersey Shore in Tom's River, New Jersey, right outside of Seaside Heights there. And so my mom spoke a few minutes, couple minutes, hands the phone back. I said, who is it? She said, it's for you. I said, who is it? She said, your father. And I felt like, wow, this like feeling that was very interesting go over me. And it was my dad, and he was very nice and kind and endearing, and he said he wanted to meet me and I come back into my life, and I agreed, and it was very open. And I saw a great family unit with him and his wife, and they eventually started having kids too. Little Allie was born, my second sister in the lineage, and so from like that newborn to 7, was like the whole data, right? The first big brain development. Then the second is really 10, 11, 12ish, right? Jumping into kind of who you become, and I, at a very, very young age, knew exactly what I wanted very specifically in the sense where I knew I wanted to help people on a grand scale. I've always felt a little bit different, I think, in a good way. I was quiet and shy in school, but amongst my friends, I was always kind of ended up being the leader of something and guiding everyone and helping. And, when you use the term mentoring back then, but really mentoring, right? Um,
Right.
but I also knew at a very, very young age who I wanted to marry. I wanted to break 3 generations of having a child at a very young age. I joke, I said in the 60s when my mom was born, they didn't give you a TV show when you had a child when you were 19 on MTV, right? So it was a little bit different. I was the first to break that in my family, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, as long as you don't blame shortcomings on that, which is what you kind of grew up hearing. So jumping ahead, I was able to find my dream girl at 21 years old, right? And then my dream mentor at 23 years old, right out of college, coming from a person that failed public speaking at a very, very young age. Right. And I, within 3 months of being with my first mentor, was in front of 3,000 people 3 months later. Right. And the reframe was number one, it's not about you, it's about them. Right. And number two, they don't know what you're going to say, so you can't mess up. Right. And so it just became this thing of just listening and having that heart to help, and then filling the gap of what somebody needs. And I know I'm saying a lot right now, so I'll pause, but that's literally what we do to this day. And we can speak present day stuff, but it's literally just taking the call of anyone from around the world of industry agnostic stuff that need help, whether it's, who's going to carry the Olympic torch, to how do we get our best-selling book to a movie, or how do we get our product into Walmart. And it's really cool and it's fun. It's almost like treasure hunting every phone call, but it's always about helping people.
I love that. I love that. I don't want to skip over certain aspects because it really I believe it shapes identity and it shapes who you are. Because I know you and I had
Mm.
talked like way back, and you had mentioned that you had been bullied as a child. Like coming from that space of bullying, that's you stepped up through it all. And
Yeah. Yeah.
if you don't mind sharing a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for asking. I think there's almost like two kinds of the reception of bullying. There's the ones that are bullied that kind of just get really taken back, go into a shell, and then there's the ones that fight back, right? My beautiful wife was called not nice names when she was younger, even to the point she's the oldest of 4 sisters, where when she grew up, they said, I never thought, her family member actually said, I never thought you'd be the pretty one. And she's absolutely gorgeous. And she looks the same when I met her at 19 years old, literally. She's 42, going to be 42 May 18th. And it's one of those things where she she kind of kept quiet and shy to herself, although I was quiet and shy too. When that did happen, you get to a point, like I'm going back to the old 80s, the Popeyes, where it's like I has all I can stand, I can't stand anymore. I would stand up, and not just for me, for other people, right? And sometimes if it was like a pushback, then I'd push back, or a shove, whatever it might be. But it it made me hate bullying, like truly hate. And it's a strong word. I don't like to use that word often because of the movies we make, and the
Yeah,
we live collective, really positive, uplifting consciousness. But there is light and dark, right? There's light and dark. There is
absolutely.
contrast.
Right.
Um, so I remember, from like kind of preschool to 3rd grade, I was kind of okay. I was okay. I kind of got along with everyone, and then we moved. to a place down in South Jersey with my stepfather's grandmother, stepfather's mother, who was my step grandmother. That was an interesting place. They weren't very nice there. And I remember they weren't kind at all. And I was shocked because it was very different from the contrast from the old school. But then we moved to where we really lived and where I considered where I grew up, so to speak. And that was to the Jersey Shore in fifth grade. And some of my best friends were in that original class. But there was a lot of people that were not nice. They were bullies. They were just, said things that weren't nice and names and everything. And not just me, excuse me, a lot of people. And so you either, I say you either shift what you don't like or you become what you hate, right? Sometimes
Right.
people that are bullied become bullies, right?
Mhm.
That couldn't be. So I shared this a couple of movie premieres ago on stage with Joe Vitale and a couple of the other legends from The Secret and some other wonderful cast members. I had a 19-year-old girl from the audience. We were doing a Q&A ask, how do you find a mentor, right? Or how do you, and how do you basically, find good role models? And
Love it.
at a young age, I told her at a young age, I decided that the comic books, which is very popular, wasn't popular in the early 90s as much, right? Now it's cool to wear comic book shirts and see Marvel movies and all that. I said I would have been the quarterback, if I went to school nowadays, with wrestling's popular, Marvel's popular, all that. It's funny. Ninja Turtles wearing those T-shirts are all popular. But I found a lot with three people, and I answered it doesn't need to be people near you per se, right? You emulate what's good from your family and the people around you that you love, but you leave out what not great and doesn't serve. And then I believe you become that better person. You work to make the next generation better, right? Starting with you, right? My favorite quote of all time is be the change you want to see in the world, Gandhi. Be the change you want to see in
Yeah.
the world. I think there's a message in the message. So I adopted at a young age. So Tony Robbins uses a quote and he says, I built this. He says, mother effer. I'm not going to say that, but that's the term he uses. Like he constructed himself. I at a young age found incredible awe in Michael Jordan. Watching him, no matter what, he'd find a way to win. He would overcome and find a way, no matter what. They were down 16 points going in the fourth quarter. He became the best rebounder if he needed to, or the best three-pointer, or the best defense guy. He became what he needed to accomplish that task. I apply that every day in my life. Everything I do, I must finish, right? So I learned that from Michael. Number two, there was a witty, funny, charismatic, good-looking guy named Shawn Michaels from wrestling. I didn't know at the time I always felt like I'd work with wrestlers. I didn't know I'd be friends with some of the greatest wrestlers of all time, the Olympic medalist Kurt Angle, and some of these wonderful guys that I've idolized growing up, and I would become partners with them in businesses and so forth. But Shawn Michaels, he was funny, he was witty, he was charismatic, similar to the Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. character, And so I kind of picked that up because I was, again, kind of quiet and shy. But third, I think, is the most, my beautiful wife saying bye. Third, I think, is the most important, is Peter Parker. And yes, he's fictional, but if you ask most people, Spider-Man tends to be people's like favorite character, right? He did what was right for the sake of what was doing what was right, even if the next day the newspapers thrashed him and bashed him and said bad things. So and he hated bullying. So I literally embodied that. I became like that was my inner superhero. So I would stand up for people so much so that when I got of age and I met my hero, Kurt Angle, the Olympic gold medalist, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. I helped him out with our first company was nutraceuticals and got him off of painkillers, and he wrestled for another 11 years, WWE, then TNA. We got to put together an anti-bullying charity with our other friend who's an author as well too, called USA Bullying United Strong Against Bullying, and work with Arnold Schwarzenegger and work with these kids and work with all kinds of other names. And it was amazing. Team up with the NFL football combine and with all the players there. And so I think you have to take a stand for what you believe in, and you have to then if you can kind of put the stake in the ground, but then build something around it and allow things like money's the only tool to help fuel your passion to help others. So
I love that. That's a lot.
it's a
You had
lot.
a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
great influencers in the time. What would you say would be the one pivotal thing, if you were to pinpoint it, that really awakened your potential?
Oh my gosh, so several. Thank you for that. Several. Um, this might sound silly, so I would say three things. Number one, and this might sound really silly. I have a friend who's a well-known producer as well too, who grew up with a very different childhood in another country, and he grew up with magazines of things, with women and stuff on them at a young age, at a very, like 8 years old, right? I was very young and naive. I didn't know what, I don't think things were till like 17, 18, 19. And, I don't think I paid attention to health class, but I was very innocent, and my beautiful wife, Christina, was too. And that's, I think, why we match a lot. But it was one of those things that he grew up with kind of crazy stuff and kids doing crazy things. And he got involved with crazy things, right? And he had this perception of women and girls and James Bond running around with all these girls and this and that, and literally looked up to these type figures, James Bonds and so forth, and the magazines. I, having little Lita, all right, at the time, and then eventually my sister Gina on my mom's side, Ali in the middle, and Sammy in the middle, and Tommy. I ended up watching hundreds of times in the early '90s. Aladdin, Lion King, especially Beauty and the Beast, right? So it was like the prince wanted to find the princess and make sure everything was okay and they're happy and they live happily, right? And it was like this thing which put me on a quest at a young age. And also Robin Hood. It sounds funny, but I would watch the movie Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, right, with the Bryan Adams song, which I absolutely love. Love Kevin
Yeah.
Costner. Was with them at Cannes last year, and it's one of those things that I it shaped me to realize that I wanted to be like that person that found the love of my life and take care of that person, and vice versa. So that was a pivotal moment. Those things together, right?
Yeah.
Um, Number two, an awakening moment was when I went up on stage for the first time when my original mentor, Andrew Panotakis, Marine, love him very much, saw something in me. And like I said, not too far back, failed public speaking in college. And we started with 8 people at a dinner table, 35 people in a room. And I won some awards. So I was on stage in front of 3,000 people giving a speech. And
Oh,
that was wild. And when you do it, you're like, wow, I can do it. It's like, Dr. Wayne Dyer would say, believing is seeing, right? Instead of seeing is believing. At the time, I don't know if I fully understood that. Like I saw it and I believed it because I did it. But you can, now we know all these different modalities, visualization being one of them. You can visualize and put yourself there and feel it, truly, truly feel it. Had the honor of having dinner with the great John Astor. Oh, I'm sorry, John DeMartini. We love John Astor too, by the way. John DeMartini last night. Too many Johns in the secret. John DeMartini and his wonderful, I'll call better half, and he'll laugh and chuckle. Donna Parker, coincidentally, her name's Parker, like Peter Parker, and the great Harrison Klein and Marbeth Dunn. And we were talking and digging into that, like basically the repetition until you feel it. Where John has mantras that he'll say until he feels it and he resonates. It resonates and it vibrates, and it's not something he does; it's something he becomes, and something you are, right? And
yeah.
so repetition is the mother of retention, how the old saying goes. So that was a moment. But there's all these moments along the way, even stepping into the executive producer chair and filming the greats that 16 years prior I used to watch in conferences and then being on stages with them. There's always these magic moments, going to the Olympics and being with heroes that we used to watch on TV, Wu-Tang and Kool and the Gang, and then befriending them and realizing that we're all just normal people. Like there are things that people need. There's things I'm helping them out with, the names I just
Yeah.
mentioned, right? Everybody has something they need, and if you can help fill the gap of what they need, it's the old Charles Swindoll quote that a candle never loses any of its flame while lighting another candle.
I love that. Obviously, through osmosis, I mean, I get, Tony, knowing you now, how I know you. You've done a lot of personal
Mm.
growth and development work. You are the
Thank
epitome
you.
of love, and really
Thank
truly
you.
believe, I believe, begins with self-love.
Thank you.
And I really get that from you. I've got to imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I've got
Mm.
to imagine sitting at tables with some of these great people and mentors and influencers. It's almost like the osmosis. You're getting it more
Yeah.
of that. You
Yeah.
become what you think about expands, like
Hmm.
everything is energy in my world. So
Yeah.
I've got to imagine that that energy around you also expands you as a person as well. And then you
Mm.
give back. And well, I'll get to the next question after that because I know, and now my
Yeah.
mind is like,
I love that. I love that. Yes, to your point, yes. I mean, look, there is scientifically things called mirror neurons. We tend to
Yeah,
mirror match a lot of people.
yeah,
Um, some of my friends, this is not knocking anyone, I love them dearly. Some of my friends from high school and middle school and grade school, I see once a year. And, people say people grow apart. I love them. I have a place for my heart always. I'll always be there to help them and everything,
Yeah,
God willing and so forth. It's one of those things that some people you have to take a little bit in doses because you realize when I say here, I mean vibrational speaking, because we all have the ability to elevate our consciousness, right? And I
yeah,
believe it's choice, and it's also understanding that you can. And a lot of times people are dumbed down by the programming and so forth. That's why we have to be mindful of what we put in. But yeah, I mean, look, it's water against the rock. You put yourself in an environment where there's energies that are not as beneficial to you. I
yeah,
mean, you eventually kind of just jive. Especially with somebody that naturally, like I naturally, I've always chameleon people. I've always just naturally, my dialect, my younger person talk comes out to a younger person. My elder person talk comes out to an elder person. I've been learning. A dear friend Twee, excuse me, who's going to be in our movie along with you, with the some of those movies coming out, the Manifest movie, the Art of Manifestation, and also we have the trilogy Frequency of Miracles, which I'm sure we'll talk about, which you're one of the stars in with Bruce Lipton and all the great names, all the other great names, including you. You know,
thank you.
Twee says, you hold this consciousness, and she's been working it. Life's a great teacher. John and I were talking about that yesterday. That every day you're learning, and if you allow yourself to be learning, when people say
Absolutely.
I'm the smartest guy in the room or the smartest whatever in the room, you closed yourself thinking it's an ego thing, and you're in that place and space where you think you know it all, right? If you're open to, like John says, legendary learning, continual learning, forever learning, you're always learning, right? You're always growing, right? And I think it's cool that if you think of yourself like an AI, and AI is always learning, and it tends to have the answers and it pulls in. Think of yourself like that. Sometimes they get a little bit like the AIs or the chat GPTs. I'm like, you know what? I can figure that out. Let me figure this out. If they can, if that can tap in, I can tap in, right? And
Exactly.
tapping in is the source. It is the quantum. It is here. Yeah. So your environment is so much. I won't say it's everything because you have to work on yourself, but if you work on yourself, you will last longer in that environment, but at the end of the day, it is water versus the rock. You do have to be mindful. You really do have to
Yeah,
be mindful how much you share with different people and even loved ones. You love them where they're at. You see them around the holidays or different things like that. It doesn't mean you need to talk to them every day on the phone. You're there because you love them, right? But at the end of the day, you have to put yourself around an environment that elevates you too.
absolutely. I love that. I love that. I'm so curious. Tony Doty, the dream maker. How did that come about?
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. So it was a healing journey after I married my beautiful wife. First 2 years, went through for about 5.5 years there, but 5.5 years. So, and in that process, first 3.5 years were not great. Met a lot of amazing people in the sense of going to traditional allopathic medicine to functional and homeopathic to eventually the energetics, the quantum, and all of this. And you meet amazing people. Now we get to cast these people, film movies. There's a quantum bed over there, and amazing, right? And so during that time, I met a great guy named Mike Peluso. Mike was wonderful. Company called True Living, the founder, called me yesterday. I have to call him back actually. And Mike brought me into that group, and he knew I knew a lot of people, thankfully, because my whole thing is relationships. To me, it's no competition; it's only collaboration.
Absolutely.
Doing it in 20 years, you meet a lot of people, and if you do right by people, the Bible says your name is worth more than silver and gold. It is true. It precedes you, right?
That
It truly does.
it
So
does.
somebody on this open call helped them to write their book, become bestseller, got them hooked up with some of the top people in the book world. They go, you're a dream maker, you're a dream maker, you're a dream maker Dody. And it's a big call, right? It's all these people, wonderful group. And that's where I met Twee actually. You're a dream maker Dody, dream maker. And so it just like, hey, dream maker, hey, dream maker, hey, dream maker Dody. I was like, okay, I've been called worse, I'll take it, and it's like the Italian joke, like, just don't call me late for dinner, you know what I'm saying? So it worked and it stuck and I liked it and it had a good ring to it. And here we are to that day. It's my kind of superhero name where I have to live up to that reputation. Like when the bat signal goes out, Batman, Bruce Wayne picks up the mantle. I shouldn't say his secret identity. Batman picks up the mantle. And I pick up that mantle and I wear it. And again, it's not something that you just you do. It's something that you are. You know.
I love it. I love it. So what would you say is your natural gift?
I think God blessed me with the ability to connect with people. My first thing, you talk about a magic moment or like an awakening moment that my original mentor taught me, the Andrew Panotakis. He said everybody has an invisible sign on their forehead that says "Make me feel important." Everybody, no matter who you are, 8 billion plus people, everybody has that. And he was trained by the greats, the people that were trained, person in between that was trained directly by Jim Rohn, right, who became a mentor to me. Even Les Brown, talking to Les, we had a Zoom not too long ago, and I brought up some of the names, the old Amway guys and stuff, right? They have, built such a legacy that, Jim Rohn, without Jim, would there be Tony Robbins? Would there be Mark Hughes from Herbalife? Would there be Gary Racer, one of my mentors that founded our first company? So it's that, right? It's the ability to really understand people and also have the patience with people. I don't particularly love when people come at you. If they come at you in a state where they're scared or concerned or they need stuff, that's fine. That's totally different. If they come at you in an angry state for the sake of being angry, I don't particularly love that. That's like a boundary point for me. So it's like we can say things without being mean. And so again, one thing to be angry. It's another you can call up cursing up a storm, but don't curse like at me or at anybody else. You know what I mean? That's where the superhero comes in, right? It's like, oh, are we gonna stop that? But it's one of those things that I believe that's the gift. But again, just like Michael Jordan or Kobe going there and practicing every day, I tell people I'm literally on the phone and it's a learning university every day, right? Whether it's an Olympic gold medalist or like a mega titan in business, like a Jeff Hoffman or somebody like that, somebody that's made, first generation billionaire, whoever it is, you're always learning. And you're learning even from people that you're mentoring. Vinny, our dear friend, Vinny Power Punch Pacifico, having a meeting with Nike right now as we speak, right? Vinny, he'll say little things and quips. I'm like, oh, wow, and so, it's always this beautiful energetic exchange of learning. So I believe my gift is that the ability to just really connect with people and understand, and that is a teachable thing. And I think everything's teachable, even motivation. So people say you can't teach motivation. If you can work with an energetic medicine healer, and they can come in and remove things that you're not, like the old Michelangelo or adage, where with David. David was just everything that wasn't David was removed. That's what Michelangelo said, right? To leave what the beauty of what David was. There are people that help you do that to remove it. Some of them are in our movies. And eventually you learn how to do it yourself too. And it's one of those things that I think almost just literally just about anything could be taught, but you hone and you work on the craft that I believe that was given to you. And if you can do that better than, let's say 95% of the world, and you can actually provide a living for yourself, you'll never work a day in your life. It's a beautiful thing.
I love that. So,
Mm.
speaking of what, like, how did you get into movies? And I know you've got a trilogy coming up and a few things coming
Mm.
up. Share, if you would, a little bit about that.
Thank you. Thank you. So, 2000, well, first of all, my life changed thankfully for the better when I met my hero, Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle. And the brief story with that back in 2006 was I'm auditory kinesthetic. I hear and I feel, right? So I'm not as visual, I'm not really a reader, listener, and so forth, right? So I read a book though, cover to cover, which was a big deal, right? Back then, Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle's book, right, called "It's True, It's True," New York Times bestseller. He was the face of WWE, the 1-800 collect commercials back in the day, if you remember them, all over the place, right? And
Yeah.
won a gold medal with a broken neck, all right? And unbelievable story. I just had a Peacock last year, did a documentary, my buddy called Angle, great guy. I read the book, gave it to my mentor. This is the short version of the story. He said, "You got to read this book." He reads the book, hands it back to me, and says, with a flyer, "Put your money where your mouth is." I said, "What do you mean?" He was very tough. And he said, when he first met me, he said, "I'm Greek, I'm from New York, and I'm a Marine." He's like, buckle up, basically. And he was a father figure that was that I needed, right? So he hands me a flyer saying he's going to be up in Little Falls, North Jersey, which is about 3 hours away. Kurt Angle signing autographs. So I go up there to meet my hero at the time, right? And I bring one of my other friends, two friends actually. I had a meeting somewhere else, and I had him hold the place in line, 500 people. And then we come back, and I get there, and he holds the place. And my friend left, and I said, "Why don't you stay?" He said, "No, he lives." So my other friend stayed, right? Dave, and Dave was an actor, and he was in a movie called War of the Worlds back then with Tom Cruise, little parts, but he was around famous people. I was again kind of coming into myself, right? Limu was the name of the company, nutraceutical company, bioavailable seaweed extract from Tonga and all that beautiful areas in the South Pacific. I knew it helped my mother that was diagnosed with lupus and fibromyalgia with anti-inflammatory effects. So I knew it could help his neck. It just made sense. So it had ABC News, it had all these PubMed.gov studies. So I brought a package together, I bring it to Kurt. We literally wait in line. We hand it to Kurt. He was very kind, said thank you. Bodyguard said next. And we leave. And I said to Dave, buddy, do you think he's gonna look at it? He goes, honestly, no. I said, we need to go back in line. And he goes, well, I'm not. I said, well, I am. So teaching point, persistence, right? You have to be persistent, right? I go back in line, wait again for, I don't even know how long. Cute little kid comes from behind us, wants to interview him for a book report. So now we're second to last. They're wrapping up. We get to them. Now it's kind of calmer, cool, relaxed. I think it's either a GNC or a vitamin shop with MHP, Gerard Dente, big protein company. And we have a conversation. Dave kind of starts it. Dave says, that package we gave you, you don't understand. And he goes into a testimony. I told him about my mom, and I'm all like, like a little nervous at the time. And he leaned back in the chair, I'll never forget. And he called me Aunt right off the bat. And he said, Aunt, I've been looking for something like this. I've been praying for something. He was on 6.5, 10-strep Percocets a day, which equates to 65 Percocets. It was very
Yeah.
vocal. He was in Sports Illustrated talking about it. WWE, him and Vince McMahon, the owner, had a big fallout, right? He was on what was called Death Watch. Death Watch is like when you got to watch the guys because they were taking all these cocktails. But he broke his neck 4 times, once in the Olympics, 3 times pro wrestling. And if anybody says pro wrestling's fake, it's choreographed. But you have a 350-pound guy jumping on you, they mess up quite often, let me tell you, right? And I've been in the ring before. There's not much padding. That being said, Kurt calls me 3 days later, restricted. I almost didn't pick up the phone. It's like Sunday, especially back then, slept in, flip phone, and it has the phone number. It says restricted. I look one eye, I go to flip it open, and I literally said to myself, hey, this is either my grandmother or Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle. It's one of the two. So sure enough, it was Kurt Angle. And he says, hey, this is Kurt. I want to try something at Limu. He's like, are you sleeping? I'll call you back, kid. I'll call you. I said, no, 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 I'm okay. Ends up introducing me to Hulk Hogan, Dwayne Johnson's father, Soulman Rocky Johnson. Eventually, my first movie producer that needed help with distribute. Well, actually, it was capital raising at the time, which brought me to some people from CNBC. A guy that worked on Shark Tank and some of the bigger shows wanted to get out of the big box stuff, have his own company because he didn't love the studios yelling and here and there and the craziness of all that, right? And so he said, I don't like people, exactly what he said, but you love people, people love you. So I became the front man. They were all production. I know anything, I didn't know how to turn on the camera. But these guys knew the production. They put out beautiful quality product, right? So next thing you know, we're doing, shows, we're doing commercials for businesses on the Jersey Shore and the towns, the New Hope, Pennsylvania, Red Bank, New Jersey, all this stuff. And we have it on E and Bravo and, AMC. And we were some of the first to do what was called force view, where you couldn't click through after 5 seconds, even though people might not like us for that. But you're watching back in the day Walking Dead, right, on AMC.com, right? And then you couldn't click through, you had to watch a 30-second commercial. We were part of that when Instagram just started doing videos and stuff. So that was my initial kind of in. And then I went through the healing journey, right? And then what ends up happening is I end up going to once I got some neurocognitive gene edited stem cells, met Joe Dispenza, started working with Kristen Connell, the rewired mind, love her very much, and with the epigenetic stuff, right? I felt like, okay, go on the film set. Went back on the film set after some years and ran into the guys that did the sequel to The Secret, got asked to help with that, got them back on Amazon, got them on Apple. Our friends used to be the heads of Amazon Studios, thankfully. We know a lot of wonderful people. And then it just picked up from there. Met a guy named Daniel Retnitzer, who was the guy that John Asrat and those guys all brought in to kind of fix and tweak it, Beyond the Secret. It did very well, 100 million minutes watched and growing. And then got asked to do all these other movies and just fell in that space. And here we are. Now get to go to Cannes and get to work with wonderful people and all kinds of names that we all know, and doing 9 different movies right now. And some are scripted. Many of them are conscious documentaries. And many of these movies have 1 or 2 great names. We have like 15, and the one that you're in alone, which by the way, you're in, which is we need to bring that home. Amazing. So very exciting.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the one that I'm in, please. How
Oh
did
my
it come?
gosh.
How did it come to
So
be?
the frequency of miracles. So the frequency of miracles is exactly what it sounds like. It's a trilogy about raising the vibration and consciousness of humanity, right? It's where The Secret started. Rhonda did a great job 16 years ago or so with that. Did very well, hundreds of millions of dollars that were raised and reached billions of people. It took everything to the next level. It took everything to the level of there were people really that start to become mainstream. This is taking it to the next level. Here we are almost 2 decades later, right? Talking about, not just consciousness as we know it, but what quantum means, right? Tapping into that, tapping into the frequency. Everything is energy, vibration, and frequency. Einstein spoke about it. We all know that now. Everything is these subatomic particles, right? Everything is that. When you look at it from a health standpoint, the bottom level, right, is the structural, and then there's biochemical, right? And then
Yeah.
above that is electromagnetic, right, which can be influenced by essential oils and things like that. Then above that is magnetic, obviously influenced by magnets. Then there's sound acoustics, like these different beds that can help with through sound. That's why music can change us like that, change our state, right? But then
Yeah.
above that is boson frequency, the God particle. And above that is the quantum, and that is 0 point. And that's what Einstein spoke about. So these movies speak about this. There is truly a vibration which is now quantifiable. Joe Dispenza has spoken about this for years. Many of the greats that are in our movies have spoken about this. Many neuroscientists. There's a quantum bed right there. There's a super PEMF machine from the White House doc over there, and there's a sound acoustics bed downstairs, right? So these things are amazing, and it's not woo-woo stuff. It's just science. I mean, the word pharmacology literally means, if you look it up, like witchcraft. That's 150 years ago. They would have put people on the stake for doing these
Yeah.
biochemical type stuff, and now it's common practice. So we're learning all this, and it's not just like the future; it's the now. The biohacking is past that. I think it's quantum hacking at this point.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah,
It so fascinates me. It excites me at the same token because it's finally coming into fruition of knowledge and really getting it out there in the world to people. There are different ways and means of healing yourself on so many different levels. And I believe this will touch on a lot. So I'm excited
yeah.
about it. And
Well, I love that you're part of it. I mean, you have your amazing clarity tool. You've done so much over the last, 15 years or so here. You have all the 9 books out. Some of these books we're working together. We're going to repurpose and everything too. You're one of the stars of this movie with Reverend Michael Beckwith and Sister Jenna and Marissa Peer, Marie Dunn, all of them. So these are your peers. So it's very, very exciting.
yeah, they always say you are who you hang out with, and you know, it it it's going to be it's another level of exciting journey of who we're becoming
Yes.
on the way. So I guess my next question for you, Tony, you're just a wealth of information, and I could talk to you all day and just really
Oh,
get
thank you.
excited about it. But what,
Thank you.
you're most welcome. What message of hope or truth do you want to share with others, especially our listening audience today?
Yeah, thank you. I want people to know, like, if they're in a place that they're not really happy with, life is ebb and flow. Life is ebb and flow. There are people out there that can help, and not just the biochemical stuff, the pharmaceuticals, or even nutraceuticals. There's people out there. They can Google things like about epigenetics, energy medicine practitioners. There's people out there that can help you to get to where you want to be, right? And it's amazing. Some of these things are rather quick.
Mhm.
But if you're in a place in space where you feel like it's not ideal, you just know that everybody at some point in their life goes through it. Everybody, the Olympic gold medalists that broke their neck and they don't know how they're going to carry on, but they find a way, right? The person that lost their mother or something, God forbid, right? And they find some kind of inspiration somewhere and they write a book about her, right? Or they create a business in her name or whatever that might be, right? There is hope, right? And you can tap into it, and it's actually a frequency. And the
Yeah.
lowest frequency I've recently realized in the measurable, quantifiable specs is actually shame. Believe it or not, and I've recently I learned this earlier today from Kristen Connell, Rewired Mind. Shame. And so a lot of times people are shamed for things they've done in the past, or maybe how they feel and they feel they present themselves, or whatever that looks like, right? You can leave that behind. Like there's a saying, the issues are in the tissues, right? Again, there are people out there that are amazing. Kristen's one of them, right? And you have these incredible clarity tools that you can rewire your mind, rewire your nervous system, rewire your brain, right? And you know what? Just hang in there long enough for it to happen. If you incrementally go a little bit, sometimes there's these quantum shifts and quantum jumps. I've seen people with these amazing stories where they couldn't really use their arms and they're tapping into these different healing modalities and they start walking again or using their arms. It is amazing and it is possible, right? And if you believe, like one of my favorite scriptures, with God all things are possible, right?
Yeah.
Then you can act upon that, right? So if you're not in the ideal place or space, just know that, reach out. It does get better and it can get better. Just take some kind of inspired action and keep at it until you get it.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah, I'm a walking testament to that. As you know, I had my accident. So I so
There you
believe
go.
that.
Yeah.
I so believe that. So I know you have a gift or resource for to offer the audience. You had mentioned
Yeah.
if you want to share a little bit about it, and I will
Yeah.
let everybody know real quickly that all of the contact informations for Tony Doty will be in the show notes, including the link to what he's going to talk about.
Oh, I love that. Well, please, everybody, check out the frequencyofmiracles.com. Karen is being updated to be in it. We have the Art of Manifestation coming out too, the Manifest movie. Again, she's one of the amazing stars of it. Check out her clarity tool because that's what I was going to speak about. So I am going to gift whoever would like to. We run and do a lot of different things at various parts of the world, but I will gift a clarity session. I originally, I think I said 15 minutes. We can go a half hour. We will make sure for those that are listening, we can do that, a clarity session where we can just kind of talk. And again, just if you look at it, and I actually haven't shared this, but Karen, you hear me say this a lot. If you look at your business, right, your brand, your life in general, you're the pitcher, right? You're the pitcher of your business, your brand, your life, right? You don't have
Right.
9 pitchers in a baseball diamond. You have 8 other people that are very distinctive of what they do, right? No matter what, it always comes down to it happens with how, but the who gives you the how. Like the famous book, Simon Says It Starts with Why. I believe it starts with what, fueled by why. So what gets you the why that makes you cry, gets you out of bed every day, and gets you through maybe some not the ideal times. But it happens with how, right? And the who gives you the how, right? So there's always this specialized knowledge, this genius. With John DeMartini yesterday, very transparently, John said he creates all day long, reads, writes, and he creates these amazing programs. He said he's not a marketer. So guess what? In his baseball diamond of life, he is the pitcher. He has the marketer. I told him I'll help him with some things too, right? So the marketer, that's the catcher, the CMO, right? I have friends that had big brands with tea and coffee. They couldn't get it off the ground. That's where they didn't get off the ground in the time they wanted to, right off the cuff. And then they brought in a major influencer. I won't say who, one of the biggest on the internet. Gave her a good amount of money, raised a lot of money, and next thing you know, they sold the company for 10 million one, 10 million for the other, retired at 29 years old, right? The who will give you the how. So I will help with that. Whoever would like a clarity call, I would love for everybody, honestly, you have a beautiful clarity tool, all right? Like that is just incredible because it really gets to tap into you. It's like having Karen in your pocket. Everybody watching home should really subscribe to that. And that is
Thank
something
you.
that you can utilize 24/7, right? So that's what I have, and thank you, and I love you.
Thank you for the plug. I really appreciate it. The Tranquil Solutions Clarity tool, which really did take me over 15 years to develop. And you and your beautiful wife, Christina, have both experienced it. Can you just give a little, maybe something so it's not just coming, it's almost like coming from mom's mouth as
Oh,
opposed to,
yeah. Yeah, no, it's really cool. Like it's cool because it's reflective of you, and we've done some AI things. We're friends with many people in that world, but this is cool because it has beautiful pictures, right? I believe sacred geometry as well too. At least to me, it looks like sacred geometry. Really, really cool. And you can kind of ask it anything, and you can get clarity upon it, right? And then it will dive deeper. And again, visuals. Some people act with visuals. Some people are more like like the words written and these different ways that they process, but it's really an amazing tool. And I've seen people try to do it throughout the years, similar things, not quite because now we're really updated with AI, but didn't quite hit it. And we loved it. We loved the experience. My beautiful wife and I did it about a week and a half ago, is that right, for breakfast?
yeah.
Look at 2 weeks from now, man. Time flies. But uh, and it was really cool. The pictures actually were absolutely amazing, right? And then it gets to know you and it learns more, and you get to communicate back and forth. And again, it's like having Karen in your pocket. It's great.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. Thank you for that. Yeah, because there's a lot of my frameworks in the background, so that's what makes it so personable as opposed to just
Yeah,
doing a regular AI. But thank you for that.
very much. So.
Any last words you would like to leave the listening audience before? Because I know you're a busy guy and have a lot on your plate, and
Mm,
I want to respect that as well.
thank you. I think we have a beautiful episode coming up with my beautiful wife, so I'm excited about that, and we can dig even deeper. Again, just kind of echoing what I shared. I mean, I love everybody. again, to check out the respective movies this year, Frequency of Miracles in September, Amazon. We're bringing it to Cannes as well too this year, which starts officially next week. Great showrunners, great people, great team. Frequency Healing next year. Then we have Frequency of Purpose and so forth, and the Manifest movie coming out as well too. Very exciting stuff. That being said, it's just echoing what I shared earlier. Is like, again, if you're in a place that where you're not, 100% like where you feel like you want to be, you could do this exercise. It's kind of cool. I learned this from Orrin Woodward, top 50 Inc. speakers back in the day, right? And I'll end with this. I hear my wife coming in, honey, I'm almost done rapping right now. We're live. I'm getting yelled. I'm getting yelled at. So this is what happens in 22. So right now, so basically, what I would share as she yells at me in the background is that lead with the F's of life: your faith, your fitness, your following, your footprint, your friends, your family, your fun, which is you time. Right where you're at on a scale 1 to 10, where you feel like you're at in that moment, and then right what your ideal 10 is. Right, and then you will find a way to get there. And again, we're here to help as well too. So
Yeah.
that's what I got, and I want to make it to the 23rd here. So I'm going to hurry up here.
Well, thank you for the listening audience. Thank you, Tony Doty, for sharing your journey and insights with us today. The story is a beautiful reminder of transformation beginning the moment you become aware and continues with those brave, badassy steps which you choose to take. Remember, the bridge from ordinary to extraordinary is built with small steps of change and big leaps of faith, excuse me. You're more powerful than you know. So keep showing up, keep rising, and keep awakening your potential. And if today's episode sparked something inside of you, let's explore more together. DM me the word awaken or visit Tranquil Solutions, TranquilSolutions.com, and book your clarity call with me today. All of Tony's information will be on the show notes as well. So until next time, stay sassy, stay classy, and keep building your bold, assy self. Bye for
Ooh, and make
now.
your dreams come true.
And make your dreams come true. Exactly.